This is interesting. These are brain scans from students and parents completing the same crossword puzzle. Now, they came out with the same answers and they got it, the same way, both parents and the students. But what's most interesting, you can see how the brain waves are acting differently. So they're getting the same answer, but the brain is acting differently, it's processing differently. So our children are thinking and processing differently than what we did as children. And they're also processing differently than what their teachers, if it's baby boomers, if it's Generation X, if it's next gen, our problem solving and our figuring has changed. So I want to share this with you. This is interesting. This is from article out of Educational Leadership, and the article titled "Teaching the I Generation." It highlighted the generations of teachers we have right now, and it spotlighted how much time or what involvement do they have with technology. And for the most case, currently we have baby boomers, and that's those from 1946 to 64. And according to the article, they prefer that face-to-face or telephone communication, and they use email. Then we have the Generation Xers, and this is me. I'm a Generation X, and I embrace, or those in my generation embrace both cell phones and email with a bit of instant messaging. Then we also have the Net Gen. Here are our teachers born from 1980 to 1989. These are our newer teachers. They pioneered the use of social networks, instant messaging, and Skype and texting. Now, if you read this article, immediately you look at it and say, well, the Net Gen, these are the teachers that are using that technology in the classroom. Where the article tells you we need to be very careful not to stereotype. Just because the Net Gen uses this technology in their daily lives does not necessarily mean they use it as a teaching tool. Nor does it mean they use it to engage students, nor does it mean the students use it while they're in the classroom. Something else that was interesting in this article, and it just tells you how quick technology has evolved. The typical teenager receives and sends 3,339 texts per month. That's more than 6 messages every hour that they're not sleeping. So if you think about that, 3,339 texts per month, that's amazing. So, we look at these schools that have student response systems, the clickers. Well, why not? That's what students are used to doing anyway. We look at these schools. We were at a school yesterday, and we're meeting with a superintendent who wants just an overall focus in his district. And we had to ask the question, are you still teaching typing? And then the next question is why? If so, why are you teaching that? Should that be replaced with some type of social media, some type of research using the computer? Because that's how things are changing. Now also about these typical teens, only 191 phone calls are received during the same time period of these texts. So the text messaging has replaced the phone calls. And I think we know that, and I think if we have cell phones, we too are probably pretty reliant on text messaging. But hey, why not use it in the classroom if they're using it already and they're used to that, and that's their way of communicating and being engaged, then we should not try to avoid it in the classroom. Now, also interesting in this article, I found this extremely interesting. The article went on to describe how much time per day are these different generations engaged in technology. So if you look, starting with the Generation X, that's 15 hours, and I'm going to explain this in a second. The Net Gen, that's those first, second, 5-year teachers in their 5th year, 21 hours, and then here comes our high school students, 20, 16, and so on. Now, you might look at this and say, wait a second, you mean out of 24 hours in a day, for 21 they're engaged, they're only sleeping 3 hours. That's not the case. This article included, if you're doing multiple technologies at the same time, then they added those into the hours. For example, if you're on Facebook, at the same time you're texting somebody with your phone, while at the same time you're streaming Black Eyed Peas, whatever the case might be, well, that would be multiple hours included. But the point is not only the teachers, but when we start looking at the teens, especially our middle school, high school students, they are engaged with technology. all day long. So if they go into your